Hi, this is Tom Soane, and thank you for joining me. Today, I've got probably one of the best pieces of advice that I could give anybody who's thinking about starting out in property investing. Maybe you're thinking about it right now. Maybe you've just started your property journey, or maybe you're a landlord already. You've got one or two properties, and now you want to take it to the next level. Build that passive income, get yourself some financial security, financial freedom, build your wealth, build your assets. This is one of the best pieces of advice for anybody in that situation. And this piece of advice was given to me by the one and only Tiger Woods. All right, admittedly, he didn't give me this advice personally, but Tiger Woods' dad gave him this advice, and Tiger Woods became the best golfer on the planet of all time. So it didn't do too badly for him. I use it myself in my own property investment journey and also in my business journey as well. And that advice is keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Now, hearing that phrase, you've probably already worked out what it means and how to do it. But I'm going to break it down into two areas because there are multiple vital messages that are within that phrase that I'm going to break down for you. And at the end of that, I'll give you a summary of a strategy that you can use to get started, an actual property investment strategy. But let's break that phrase down into two areas. First of all, stupid. Now, when I say to you, keep it simple, stupid, I'm not calling you stupid. Common misconception. What I'm saying is, on the stupid part of that phrase, property investing, landlording, all of those things it's a minefield. It's high risk. It's complicated. If you allow it to be complicated. And if you're thinking about getting into property investing, then the chances are you've probably watched YouTube videos. You've probably done training courses because there's loads of training courses available. You've probably seen loads of other people like me, content creators, giving advice, giving tips, insight. There's loads of it around. And one of the most disturbing things that I see is that you get loads of these training courses, loads of these things you can do, like rent to serviced accommodation, rent to HMO, standard HMO, conversions to HMO, rent to rent, BRRs, no money down, get a free house, all of these things that either really don't exist, they're just headlines to sell courses, or if they do exist, they're high risk, and I would not recommend getting into those strategies as your starting out strategy, as your beginner strategy. I'm not saying they're not good strategies. Actually, they're really good strategies. And I do rent to serviced accommodation. I have a HMO. I've got a serviced accommodation property. I'm getting into more and more into rent to rent. I do a lot of BRRs, or flip to lets, I call them. I do a lot of buy to lets. But if you're starting out, or you're thinking about starting out, then those are probably not the best ones for you. And I see so many of those types of headlines around. So the way to think about this is the stupid element of keep it simple, stupid. And that is, try explaining your property investment strategy to a kid, to a 10-year-old kid. Now, I'm a father of two. I've got two young children. And if I was to try and explain rent to serviced accommodation to my 6-year-old, for an example, I would find it hard to explain, let alone impossible for my 6-year-old son to understand. Think about it. If you try and say to a 10-year-old kid, if you try and explain to a 10-year-old kid, what happens is this person owns a house, and I'm going to pay that person for his house every single month. And then I'm going to advertise that house for holiday letting or short-term letting or something like that to these people who are going to pay me once every night in order for them to stay in that house for 1 day, 2 day, 3 days. And then after every single person that stayed there, I'm going to clean and replace all the linen. I'm going to clean the property and then re-rent it out to another holiday maker, to another corporate, to another short-term let. Well, explaining that to a 10-year-old kid is not going to be easy. So that's why I try and say, keep it simple, stupid. It's got to be able to be understood by somebody who doesn't understand. Make sense? Hopefully it does. Now try and do the same thing with a straight buy-to-let property. Somebody is going to pay me £1,000 a month to live in my house. That's easy. Much easier. So the first part is very easy. And in a minute, I'm going to talk you through a keep it simple strategy, which is really good. I like this one. But that's the first thing you should think. If you're looking at videos which are teaching you about certain types of strategies, rent to rent, rent to service accommodation, rent to HMO, build to rent, BRRs, anything like that, and you find it difficult to explain it to a 10-year-old kid, then it might not be the best strategy for you to get started with. So hopefully that makes sense. I wanted to start with that because that now enables me to go into this keep it simple strategy. So how do we keep it simple? The first thing I'd say is the more complicated a property investment deal is, the less you should buy it. It's just a pile of bricks. And sometimes we get drawn into carrying on with a property investment, no matter how complicated it gets. We carry on negotiating the purchase price. We carry on negotiating or talking ourselves into buying this property because we really want to invest in a property, but it's just a pile of bricks. And there's another pile of bricks down the road. And if that pile of bricks doesn't happen, there's another pile of bricks. So the more complicated a property investment deal is, the less you should buy it. Unless you have a lot of experience, you've got a good track record, you've got cash to risk. I don't know about you, it doesn't matter how much cash I've got, I try not to risk it. I don't want to lose my cash. If you're in the same boat, then let me know. I don't want to risk it. And you know what? Property is the same as business. Property investing, or any type of investing, is the same as business. You've just got to make more money than you spend. That's it, in its simplest form. So you can see what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to simplify the property investment strategy, the property investment process. You make more money than you spend. Simple as that. Don't get drawn into a property that maybe is more complicated than it needs to be. So, look, yes, you could make more money. You could make faster money by taking more risk. I'm not debating it, and I'm not saying that those property investment strategies are not good. They are good if you do them right, in the right way, at the right time. But there's a reason why the best property investors in the world, the top property investors in the world, don't get involved in those higher risk property investment strategies. What they all do is invest in simple, safe, secure, profitable property investments. And the way I do it is, first of all, or the way I advise you to do it, and the way I did it, is I built a base first, a foundation. Think of a pyramid. You're going to build the strongest bit at the bottom. And those are your good buy-to-let, your safe, secure, profitable buy-to-let properties, maybe flip-to-let properties as well, that are reliable, they're easy to rent, easy to sell if you need to. You have to be able to release the cash easy. They have to have a high demand for tenants. They have to have a high demand for for buyers. You have to be able to move them quickly and easily. You cannot have empty properties for sure. So build your base first. For an example, if you start with, I don't know, let's say you've got £200,000 of cash or equity or whatever that you really want to invest into property, and you buy-to-let properties and you start generating £20,000 per year in profit. Now, bearing in mind, that's only a 10% return on your cash. Now, that's not bad. It's all right. If you're buying through my property broker, then I would expect a bit more than that. But if you're starting to generate £20,000 per year using that £200,000 cash that you've got, then that £20,000 a year goes into your account. You save up that profit, you refinance it every couple of years, you reinvest it, you compound it and compound it and compound it and repeat. Now, that is a very simple property investment strategy. Now, let's say after a few years, you've built that property investment portfolio and now you're generating £50,000 a year, then that's when you could start looking at things like doing a serviced accommodation property or doing a HMO or building something, converting something or doing a flip, because you've got that base. That £50,000 of passive income is now coming in every single year without fail, because you've got a secure base of buy-to-let properties. You didn't need to get involved in these quick cash schemes. You didn't need to get involved in these no money down, make tons of money super easily, which doesn't exist, by the way. You didn't need to do that because you've just built yourself a safe income. What people don't tell you about the higher risk strategies is what you could and probably will lose. Student accommodation, for an example. People never tell you that for a month every year, your property's probably going to be empty. HMO, for an example. They don't tell you that tenants move in and out much faster. So you normally always have empty properties at some point. They don't tell you about serviced accommodation, that you should account for up to 70% occupancy, meaning your property will only be occupied up to 70% of the time. So they don't tell you those things, but what they don't also tell you is that if you go for buy-to-lets and flip-to-lets, which is all my property broker does really, that the average tenant will be there for 44 months. If you buy a 3-bed house, they're probably more likely to be there for 8 years, maybe 9. If you buy a 2-bed house, it's 6. If you buy a flat, it's 3 to 4 years of definite tenants occupying your property, with probably less risk overall of tenants not paying rent or of tenants damaging your property. What would you say, and I'm asking this here, what would you say is a higher risk of people damaging your property? A house share, house of multiple occupancy or holiday let, or a family renting a 3-bedroom house from you? Well, I mean, I know the answer is a silly question, really. But that's the point. They don't tell you those things. What they're doing is selling you a training course with a headline that says you can make £5,000 a month by investing £100,000. Great, I'll take it. But what they don't tell you is all the things that come with it. Now, again, sorry, look, I'm not bashing those strategies. I am in those strategies myself. I have a HMO. I have serviced accommodation. I'm doing rent to serviced accommodation. I'm doing all those things, but I built a base first. I started off with a portfolio of good buy-to-let properties and flip-to-let properties, which give me an income that, if all goes horribly wrong with my higher risk strategies, okay. I don't like it, I don't want it, but okay, they are done. I kept it simple. That's the best way to do this. It's one of the best pieces of advice I can give to anybody who's thinking about getting into property investing. Because you'll always have that base. So, the last thing I'm going to go through very quickly is, how do you uncomplicate? How do you simplify a property investment deal? Well, I've broken it down into 4 focus areas. Number 1, focus on the cash yield first. The cash yield. And cash yield, by the way, is if you use that £200,000 of cash, how much actual cash are you getting back? Not gross yield, not rent coming in, because that doesn't matter. Because if you're paying out a mortgage, insurance, management fees, and so on, then you don't get all of that rent. So it's actual cash. How much cash do you put out? How much cash do you get in? Simple as that. Focus on the cash yield. Number 2, divide that by your risk or your chance of success. Meaning, if you invest in a higher risk strategy, what are the chances of you losing your money? And I'm going to give you an example. If you're going to put £100,000 into a higher risk property investment strategy, and you think there's a 1 in 5 chance that you might lose your money, that is your risk and your chance of success. So you need to focus on that so you understand exactly what you're actually risking. If there is a 1 in 5 chance that your £100,000 will be lost, then you are actually risking 25,000. Does that make sense? That's 20,000. Does that make sense? Hope it does. So you need to first of all focus on your cash yield. Second of all, what I'm basically saying here is work out your risk. You can put a number on your risk. And the third thing, number 3, is to work out your worst case scenario. How much does it cost you if nobody rents your property? How much does it cost you if you don't sell that property? What's the actual number? If you have to evict a tenant, it might take you 6 months to evict that tenant. What is that going to cost you in actual numbers? It might be a £500 a month mortgage payment, which means 6 months, you're going to spend £3,000 in mortgage payments. That's going to be the direct cost to you. So number 3, work out the worst case. Number 4, once you've done all those things, go back to cash yield. Cash yield is always the starting point. That's the way you uncomplicate or simplify a property investment, cash yield. Now, I'm not going to get into true yield, which is the real way to work out your actual yield, because it's a bit complicated. I know I'm talking about keeping it simple, but true yield can be a bit more complicated, but it has to take into account your appreciation too. So just to recap on those, first of all, focus on the cash yield, your cash yield. If that's 10%, fine. 10% is your cash yield, meaning you are going to get 10% back from your cash every year. Number 2, work out your risk. Put a number on it. Number 3, work out the worst case scenario. What happens if the worst case scenario happens? And then number 4, go back to your cash yield. Now, my property broker, as you all know, I focus very heavily on buy-to-let properties and flip-to-let properties. They're all off market. They're all below market value most of the time. And by the way, below market value isn't necessarily the best deal. A good deal is a good deal. Doesn't matter whether you're paying market price or whether you're paying below market price. A good deal is a good deal. So that's what my property broker does. And at the moment, I'm getting offered 3-4 properties a day. I had 4 yesterday, every single day at the moment. So by the way, I do need more buyers. If you're looking to get into property investing, I need buyers, because at the moment I'm having to turn away a couple of properties because I don't have enough buyers. I don't work with everybody. As you all know, anybody that's spoken to me knows that I don't work with everybody, but I will try and help wherever I can. So just to recap on all of this, and by the way, in a second, I'm just going to tell you about something new that I'm doing, which I think you'll like. But the advice here is keep it simple, stupid. Brilliant for anybody who's starting out in property investing. This is the strategy you should do. And anybody who disagrees with starting out in property investing and keeping it simple, then I would welcome you onto my podcast to debate that. Not to argue, just to debate. I'd like to hear somebody else's opinion of how someone who, in the example I gave there, how somebody who's got, say, £200,000 to invest, how they would invest better in higher risk property investment strategies than they would in lower risk property investment strategies. So first of all, if you're looking or considering a property investment strategy and you would find it difficult to explain that strategy to a 10-year-old kid, it's probably not the best one for you to start out with. Similar to that, keeping it simple is the best way for you to do it. Build yourself a base of good buy-to-let rented properties, quite simple. Use your cash to generate a passive income first. And then you can use your cash to invest in higher risk stuff. If you want to, you might not. Focus on the cash yield. Work out your risk, put a number on it. Work out the worst case scenario cost. How much is it going to cost you in the worst case? And then go back to your cash yield. And obviously, if you want to find off-market properties around the country, I normally only focus on the hot spots, the places that I think are going to grow in value over the coming years, or places that I believe have really good, healthy appreciation. Always a risk, obviously, but sometimes if you can buy right, then you double win in the growth of the value. So if you want those properties, just comment below. If you want me to just send them to you, comment below. I'll connect you up by email with the agent, the selling agent, the sourcing agent, the estate agent, whoever it may be, and then take it from there. But I promised you something new. So I get asked all the time to mentor people, to put training stuff on, workshops, this sort of stuff. And I've always been reluctant to do that because there are some really good training courses out there. There's some really good trainers out there, really good. And I never really wanted to get into it because there are also a lot of very bad trainers out there. A lot of people that tend to, how can I say, sell a headline. I'm going to say no more than that. But I have decided that I am going to put on a one-off buy-to-let masterclass and a one-off flip-to-let masterclass. The differences are buy-to-let is obviously buy-to-let. You know what a buy-to-let is. And flip-to-let is like a BRR, but there are more exit strategies. It's lower risk, in my opinion. And it's a better way to do those sorts of property investments. So I'm going to put on a buy-to-let masterclass and a flip-to-let masterclass. Now, these are one-offs. The reason being, I'm going to do them. I'm going to get some feedback. I'm going to give everything, give all of my knowledge, experience, and advice and tips and strategies and insights and secrets, if there are any. Then I'm going to give it all on those two masterclasses. And then I'm going to watch them back because I'm going to record them. And I'm going to see whether I want to carry on doing them or not. But I figure I might as well try. So if you want to be part of that buy-to-let masterclass and flip-to-let masterclass, or if you've got a better name for them, I really want to give them a cool name that separates them from other people's training courses, then anyway, comment below or send me a message through my Facebook page or email me. tom@pinkstreet.co.uk. I'm going to be launching these very, very soon. They are complete. I'm just setting out the facilities to be able to present them to everybody. I'm going to break them up into bite-sized workshops so that you can be part of it. You can interact with it if you want to, or you can just spectate and watch. Ask questions. It's going to be a bit interactive. You can ask questions anonymously if you want to, or you can ask questions publicly. And I'm going to try and make it as comprehensive as I can. This will all be based on exactly what I've done and what my clients have done. And some of my friends are some of the top property investors in the country. So this has been really good to put together. And I'd love you to be part of it. So you have to comment below if you would like to pre-register for that, or you need to email me, tom@pinkstreet.co.uk, or you can send me a message through my Facebook page or my LinkedIn or my Instagram or anywhere that you can reach me, then do it. Just send me an email saying I'd like to register for this. And then as soon as that is launched, you will get the invite. So sorry for a bit of selling there. But the two things to take away from this is that if you want property deals, if you want off-market, below-market property deals, definitely get in touch because I've got a lot coming through at the moment and I don't want to reject them. Thanks, Mo. Yeah, if you drop me I'll drop you a message actually and send you the link. Okay, perfect. So hopefully all that makes sense. Hey, keep it simple, stupid. You don't need to get involved in any high-risk property investment strategies until you've built your property portfolio, until you've built your passive income, until you've given yourself that secure base. That's what the best property investors in the world do. Good luck, everybody. Speak to you